obviously this month is Stoptober and last week was World Mental Health Day. In conjunction with that, we thought we might do a little show about sobriety. We are 3 members of the West Amway family that have been sober for various amount of times and for various reasons. But I guess we just wanted to highlight sobriety in football and sort of put a positive spin on it. Sam, would you like to go first? Would you like to tell everyone sort of like your journey and where you're at now and how you view sobriety?
I've been sober for just over 8 years. It'll be 8.5 on like Christmas Day. And cheers. And so my take on sobriety is that for years I wanted to take control of my drinking because I kind of knew it was out of hand, and it got worse and worse. To be honest, one of the main things that I thought about when I was making lists of reasons why I couldn't ever be completely sober was like my social life. Really, the main part of it, the most important part of it, has always revolved around West Ham. You know, it's going to West Ham. My mate's been doing that since I was very young. And that always revolved a lot around drinking. And it was as much a day out as the game itself. Very often more important than the game itself, because for so many years, the games were so shit, you know. So like, I felt it was the only way I could get through it. And so I always thought, you know, it's this very important part of my sort of life and my identity. So when I gave up because I felt like I had to. I mean, for years I thought, I know I drink too much. And, for years it was making me feel shitter and shitter in the aftermath. And in the end, I let it get out of control in my sort of mid to late 30s. And so I had to seek help. I went to the Priory, turned myself in. So it was one of those ones where sort of like a crisis led me to take the action that, you know, maybe I should have taken sooner. It took me a while to get my head around being able to go to the pub and do the same things. And a lot of people don't. You go to AA and people go, you shouldn't go into pubs, right? Because it's too much temptation. Me personally, and what different people, me personally, I'm never tempted. The thought of having a drink at this stage in my life never crosses my mind.
That's amazing.
But I do love going to the pub before the game. And I love, you know, I go to pub in various scenarios. Sometimes I'll go there with my kids and my wife and we'll have dinner or something. But at West Ham, I like going with my mates before the game and after the game, and I still go, and I like to think I'm still just as much of a noisy dickhead as I ever was. You know, I was in Prague. I saw you in Prague, didn't I? And you know, I've been to a few European games, and I had such fun, like getting to them. You know, when you do the old trains, planes, and automobiles on across Europe to get there, and you bump into so many other fans, and you're on the train, and everyone's pissed up. And people go, and, you know, come sit with us. And I go, nah, I'm sorry, no offense. I'm going to sit up there. They go, why? I go, because I'm going to have a sleep. And you lot are all on the piss. Well, you're on the piss. And I always say the same thing. I go, oh, just massive alcoholic, drug addict. Fuck up, mate. Can't do it anymore. And everyone goes, oh, all right, fair dues. Do you know what I mean? It's so much easier than going, well, I just don't feel like a drink, because that just sounds shit.
Yeah. They make you drink, don't they? People will
try and make you drink, or they'll judge you. But the moment you own it and you go, this is me, I was an addict, I've done all that, I fucked it up, I ruined it. I often say I ruined it for myself. I envy you because I can't have that fun anymore. I ruined it for myself. So I'm not allowed it anymore, and that's just the way it is. So I go, I'm going to go and have a kip up there. And they go, fair enough. So I have a kip. And then once I've had a little kip, I come back and join them when they're pissed. But by that stage, they're like, yeah, there's that geezer that doesn't drink. And then they'll start going, mate, how did you quit? Because there's always one person in the group who wants to take one person. Like, how did you quit? Yeah, I've been thinking about it myself, you know. Well, so
that one person in the group was Mark at one stage. Mark, can you remember you gave me a call and you said to me about my sobriety posts and then started asking me about questions? How long have you been sober for and how is it going?
Well, I think the journey for me when it started getting serious, I really thought I want to get sober was about 18 months ago. But I've been sober now completely, haven't touched a drop in just over 10 weeks now. So it's been, you know, it's been a sort of a tough journey in a way, because for me, I wanted to I tried the whole moderation thing, like Sam was saying. I hated it. I'm a bit of all or nothing, and I don't really understand moderation, to be honest. I don't know how people do it. This whole sort of go to the pub, have a couple of pints, and go home. I think, well, what's the
boring.
Point?
Yeah,
well, I just don't. It's just like teasing yourself. You know what I mean? It's like being on a diet and putting a cake in front of you. And
I like being.
Well, don't buy the cake. Don't
I like being pissed or sober.
Yeah,
right?
Not like an
being in between. It's just like I just constantly need a wee. Do you know what I mean? I just feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was exactly the same, and for me, it was just like when I spoke to you, Jess, wasn't it? I got to that point where I just thought it was getting worse. The hangovers were getting worse. Depression was creeping in and getting worse, and anxiety was going up. It was just getting to a point where thinking, do you know what? I think I must have about 10, maybe 20% of the week where I feel all right. The rest of it, I'm feeling like shit. And I just started looking forward in my life. I think I've got young kids. Do I really want to spend my whole life feeling like this? And it had to stop. It just got to that point. It was like the nail in the coffin. And actually, the nail in the coffin for me was last Christmas. That was when I knew, like, firmly I had to stop, because basically I could see it was having an effect on my family. And I think that's the moment. Once you know your kids have been affected by your drinking, it's like that's a pretty low moment. But like you've been saying, to be honest with you, I've totally echo everything you've been saying so far on this, because I thought it was going to be like a nightmare. I thought how am I going to do this? How am I going to go to West Ham? How am I going to do all these things but not having a drink in my hand and be able to? Because I like Sam, it was like, and I'm sure the same for you, Jess. I got just so accustomed to being drunk at West Ham. It was part of my identity, not just at West Ham, away from West Ham as well. But there was no way I could do it. But I actually found it quite uplifting to go now. I love going West Ham, and I enjoy the day more. And I'm actually sitting there thinking, why do you need drink in this environment? I'm watching my football team play. I'm at a football ground. This is Premier League football. This is amazing. I'm thinking to myself, why would I want to ruin it by getting drunk? And it's crazy, like how much it's changed.
The thing about like being pissed that I don't understand now, looking back in my life, being a pisshead, is exactly what you say, right? The best things in life just bring you joy. Going to West Ham, being with your mates, being amongst all those people who are like, you feel like you're part of a family, right? And you're watching a game that you love, and you're watching a team that you love, and it's your favourite thing to do, and it has been since you were a kid. And when you first got into it when you were a kid, you weren't drinking then. When you first fell in love with football and with West Ham, you weren't drinking then, but you fucking loved it, didn't you? And so it's like, when I feel that, when I'm doing something I love, why do I also, on top of that, need to drink as well, right? In fact, the feeling of being drunk is the same no matter what you're doing, right? So you're almost distracting from the natural joy that you can get from football. Christmas is exactly the same, right? What's not to love about Christmas for most people? You wake up, there's presents, there's loads of food, you're watching telly, you're having a laugh with the kids, all of this great stuff. It's just fucking brilliant. So it's like, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to tune out of all of this by getting pissed, right?
Yeah.
You're tuning out of the stuff that's going on around you that is already absolutely fucking brilliant.
I think that is because there's stuff going on that you want to try and hide. You're not enjoying the moment. You are hiding something that's behind. Because I know that I'd still have a good time at Christmas. I'd still have a good time down West Ham. But there was something that I was trying to avoid. There were feelings that I was trying to run away from.
You're trying to forget something.
Exactly. And that's why I did the drinking. It wasn't because I just really wanted to get pissed up and like enjoy the moment even more. I wasn't enjoying the moment even more. So much anxiety came with that. But because I was hiding things, then that's why I needed to drink. And I think now, obviously the relapse has happened, and I needed that. Like Mark said to me on the phone, like sometimes you need a huge wake-up call to realize what you were doing for so long was so right. And I think it's so easy, especially with mental health, to slip back into, I'm okay now, like I'm fine, like I'm doing really well, like everything's working out for me, so let me just go back to drinking because everyone does it, so it must be all right for everyone. I can't be the only one that can't do it. And then so quickly you realize that actually you just can't hack it, and you can't do it, and the feelings have come back, and actually the reason why you wanted a drink in the first place is because you're avoiding something that is actually deep down going on. And once you've addressed that, then you can go back into a situation where you just don't need to drink. Football, you just don't need to drink. Going out with your friends to the pub should be fun without drinking. If you need a drink to go out to the pub with your friends, change your friendship group. It's not their friend. You know what I mean? If you're out with your family and you're family so boring that you need a drink, stop hanging out with your family. Do you know what I mean? It's not, it's your surroundings that's the problem. It's not actually you.
Yeah. I mean, you know, there's a saying in recovery, isn't there? HALT, which is hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? Those are like 4 most common triggers that you have to look out for. So
I mean, for me, I actually found it because I still am now, but I mean, I was really small at school, like tiny. I was like the smallest of my year, like, you know what I mean? So I found like I suffered a little bit from confidence in that. I mean, I used to talk my way out of it in school. I used to try to make people laugh and that. So, but drink for me was like a godsend. Like, I loved it because it was like I could get pissed in front of my mates. I was really noisy then. I was chatting to girls, and people thought, "Oh, he's a bit of all right." Do you know what I mean? He's a bit of a lad, and I just found it like a great alter ego came out. And I loved it. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of just carried that on into that adult life. And so losing drink for me was quite tough actually, because it was almost like losing a big part of me. Like I thought, how am I going to cope in the world? Like you were saying, Sam, it's almost like you've now got to learn. Go and talk to adults in a room for a couple of hours, and you've not got drink now to help you out and move you out of the room. And I actually found that a bit challenging to begin with. But again, it's almost like anything. Once you've done it a few times, it's actually not too bad. You actually realise, actually, I can cope here. It's all right. Because I'm quite a chatty person anyway, so I didn't really need it. But that's what I found it quite daunting. And I think a lot of people do. The idea of going to, if you're thinking of stopping drinking or at least cutting down, and the idea of going out with your mates and not drinking, it's quite a scary thought. But all I'll say is that I actually found it quite invigorating. I liked it. Like coming away, I don't know what you feel like, Sam, but when you first went out with your mates and you then came away sober, it's quite an amazing feeling. You think, oh, I can't believe I've just done that and had a good day out and I didn't drink. And I just had that moment where I thought like I'd stop drinking. I've made a decision. I'm not going to do this anymore. And it was still very early, still in the first few weeks of it. And I got caught in that moment where it was really annoyed. I'm really annoyed with myself. I'm glad it happened in the end, but I was caught in that moment, went to the bar, and someone just turned to me, ran to everyone, went, "What are you having? Beer, 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 beer." And everyone looked at me, and I just went, "Yeah, go on then, I'll have a beer." And I thought, I wish I'd just been stronger. I went, no. And I had the beer, and I didn't have many as well. I probably only had about 4 pints, maybe 5, 4.5, something like that. And yeah, I blacked out. Can't remember getting home. Horrendous state, awful. And it was just, and do you know what? I'm kind of glad it happened though, because the next day it was almost like it was just like the decision was made for me then. Like, this is just to confirm you shouldn't ever drink. Like, this is what happens to you. Like every time you have that little, every time I have that little moment of doubt now, where I think, oh, should I have a drink? Oh, should I? Then I just think, no, just remember that night. And to be honest, I've not looked back since. It's been great. And sometimes I think you need a little bit of a kick every now and again, just to, especially when you're on that journey. Because I don't know about you, Sam, but it certainly wasn't like a light switch for me. It was a bit of toing and throwing back and forth, and moments where I had thought, do I really want to do this and all that?
Yeah. I mean, it was sort of like years and years of me trying to stop, and then sometimes stopping for long periods, and then that gives you the illusion of control, right? Because you go, I mean, stopping for October, that's a great thing, because if you only just do it for 1 month and it just, it's good for your health and get your head straight, and then you go back to it, fine. But some people might do it and think, fucking hell, maybe I could live my whole life this way. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I obviously did 6 months sobriety when I was in rehab. I didn't think that I had a problem with alcohol, when actually I did a lot of work in rehab to realize that I did. So I used alcohol to control my eating disorder. So and drugs too. So I would take drugs of an evening by myself during the week to suppress my appetite, which meant that I didn't have to eat. And if I didn't eat, I wasn't going to make myself sick. So it was like a win-win. Plus you'd be on a high. So I'd be really nice around the house. And like, because when you're bulimic and you're being sick, like you're just not a very nice person to be around. But when you're on drugs, you are great. So I think everyone just thought, oh, well, she's fine now. Like she's all right. And then there was obviously times where I couldn't afford to do as many drugs that I was doing. So I would obviously then use alcohol, because again, I found that if I was drinking alcohol, it wouldn't make me eat. So I decided that because I was going into rehab, I was going to do this properly. I was going to stop. But I didn't realize actually how much it wasn't just correlated with my eating disorder. It had become a real problem. It becomes something that I relied on in order to feel different emotions that I was feeling at that when I was drinking. So a bit like what we were going back to what we were saying earlier about not being present in the moment because you want to be there and because you're having fun. You're drinking because you just need to feel something different. And so I did my 6 months, and then I went back to drinking, and it went horribly wrong. And then obviously, Sam, your book came out. I read your book, then realized that you were sat like literally the seat in front of me. It's mad.
Yeah, I think that was when we just, but that like the day it came out or the day after it came out is when I first met you and realized we were sitting right next to each other. Yeah.
Because my mum had been on, because I was sober then over Christmas, and my mum had been on the phone to me about Sam Delaney's book is coming out about sobriety. And she came up to my room in the morning before West Ham, and I was really worried about that game because, again, I was going to be in an environment where I didn't want to drink, but I knew the pressure would be there, and I just wasn't very good at saying no. So if someone offered me a pint, I just would take it. And I said to Mum, like, I am really struggling. And Mum was like, Sam Delaney's book, like, honestly. And then at half time,
your mum is a legend.
Oh, thanks.
I love your mum. Yeah,
Mum loves Sam Delaney. So then half time goes, Jess, I think that's Sam. And I'm like, Sam? And she's like, Sam Delaney, the book. And I'm like, Mum, I don't think it is. Like, hun, like, put your glasses on. No, it's probably not. He's been sat in front of me this whole, like, for like a scene.
Yeah.
I think I recognised him. And then she decided she was going to go and incognito sit next to him for the second half.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Did she do the old?
I thought I'm in here. Nicer than the geese, and it's usually sat next to me.
She suddenly goes, "Excuse me, are you Sam Delaney?" And Sam goes, "Yes," but like, so a woman.
I thought you would have gone no autographs, please.
No, I just loved it because my son was there. So like, I think my son was there. Yeah, it was my son, and so like, he just rips the piss out of me about everything. I mean, he's a quiet lad, but when we're together, he just loves to take the piss, right? And I was like, see that woman knew who I was, knows all about my book, and he's going, shut up, it's a setup.
It wasn't a setup, I promise. But I obviously read the book. So then I was determined to go sober. And then I don't know what it was. A couple of weeks ago, I just decided that was it. I could drink again. And I think my mental health went, because I suffer with BPD, which is a form of bipolar. I think there are times where I genuinely do think that's it. I'm better now. I can do this. It's not going to affect me. I can be like everyone else. I can be that person that goes out and gets wasted until 6 a.m., has a bit of a hangover day, but then gets up and goes to work. And what I realized and what Harry had to witness, bless his cotton socks. I was like, he had to, like, I was at his mum and dad's, and they had to just lie me on a sofa all day, and I just didn't wake up. I just slept. The anxiety was just horrific. Harry was like, mate, you're right. And I was like, mate, I'm not all right.
I didn't want to be that friend where you sort of jump down their throat and go, what you doing? So
yeah.
To learn the way that she should have really, and sort of realize what she was doing.
Yeah, so I think that's right.
Realize herself. And then 2-3 days after she's got over a hangover, she sort of went, what did I do that for? Like, do you know what I mean? She's already...
Yeah, I think you're right, Harry, because like when you're trying to not drink, one of the states of mind you get into, when you're drinking, one of the states of mind you get into, I remember, is that I think everyone's judging me, everyone's telling me what to do. I won't be controlled by anyone. That was something, and I had this sense of myself like some sort of cowboy freedom fighter, like. But really, I was just a sad old drunk in a pub. Do you know what I mean? Drinking fucking whiskey on his own, right? But in my mind, I was like, I'm just living this rebel lifestyle, and all these fuckers are trying to control me, and they can all fuck off, right? And so then when people did say, what's going on with your drinking, that would like feed into the narrative that I'd already, created for myself in my mind. And so it's much better. The approach that you just said, Harry, sometimes it's just there's nothing really you can do. If someone you love is drinking or doing anything, that's the thing. I now, after all these years, I look at what my wife went through, and I talk to other people who are related to addicts, because sometimes when I do book signs or whatever, you get like women come in and they go, I really wanted my husband to come today, but he won't. I think he's got a problem, blah, blah, blah. And you start to think, fucking hell, no one get, addicts like us, there's loads of resources for us, and there's books. There's a million books like mine written by former addicts saying, "Oh, isn't it hard what we went through?" But actually, the fucking heroes a lot of the time are the people who love you and are close to you, but they're utterly helpless. But they stick with you anyway because they've got faith in you know, the good that's inside you, sort of thing. But there is fuck all they can do.
I would say the first steps of addiction is actually admitting to yourself that you've got a problem.
Yeah,
But that was my take on things with Jess. I said I saw her pull back and let her sort of realise for herself that what she was doing was wrong, because she's already the life of the party. She already goes from table to table. She don't need drink to sort of do that. So I took a step back.
I know. I mean, you know, fucking hell, she doesn't stop behind you during the game. You're trying to watch the game, and all you can hear is this. And I'm thinking, fucking, I can't imagine what she was like when she was on the gear. If this is what she's like, so.
Sam, Mark, sorry, we had this conversation, didn't we, the other day, about the fact that stopping drinking gives you so much self-confidence that you never knew you had. Like going to that work event or going to that friend who you know, like, well, but you don't know any of their friends, but going to their parties and meeting all these people for the first time and not having alcohol to rely on to be really bubbly and be really vibrant. Walking away from that situation and then waking up the next day and being like, do you know what? I'm actually all right. Like I am actually fun. Like I am actually okay. Yeah. Mark, I remember you telling me about was it another work event that you went to, or the West Ham Ways event, and you were like, I'm actually all right. Like,
it's really uplifting. It's a nice feeling actually going out and, as you say, having a great chat to people and having a good time, and it is a lovely feeling. And do you know what I love the most as well, especially going to West Ham, is I actually go away and I remember the game. I go, God, I remember that bit, and I'm telling, even at half time, I'm talking to people around me, right, and I'm saying, oh, do you remember that Souček miss? And half of them don't even know what I'm talking about. So drunk, they're like, oh, who was that?
That's it. You're absorbing all of it.
I don't even remember the goal scorer, and I'm like, you don't remember the goal? Like, oh yeah, and I'm thinking, God, I used to be like that. I used to actually come away from West Ham writing the reports for the West Ham Way and having to read the report on the BBC because I couldn't remember the match. I'm like, I can't remember the score, don't really remember what happened. And it's like so embarrassing. So like it's I do like that feeling. And actually coming home is such a nice feeling. And you come back home to your family, you're sober, you know, you get that fish and chips when you bring it home and something like that. You can sit down and watch that.
And then you got energy. You come back. I used to come back, fall asleep. Right. I used to just come back and I'd be
that as well, right?
Day, fall asleep. And I just feel. And the next day, I'd just be saying sorry all the time. I'd be saying sorry to my wife, I'd be saying sorry to my kids. And then I couldn't really do anything with the kids because I was hungover. So I'd just, you know, they go, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I go, maybe later. And I hated that about myself. And I love having energy. It feels like you give yourself superpower. The main message that, you know, that I think this point's relevant to, that I try to give to everyone, but especially in this context where we're talking to our fellow West Ham fans and they might be thinking, oh, you know, could I knock it on the head? It's like, you don't need to think about what you're sacrificing. I personally never think about that. I'm never in the I never look around and think, God, look at them, pissed. Wish that was me. I only think about what I gain. And that's not that's not the result of therapy, or that's not the result of me having any epiphany. It's just natural. It's just you end up very quickly thinking, fucking hell, look at all the things I gain. And I haven't really lost anything. I have the best fun, the funnest. And I've said this to my wife and kids, so I don't care. I said, you know, those 2 days in Prague were the best 2 days of my life. You know, they were better than my wedding. And they were definitely better than the fucking kids being born. That's a nightmare. Kids, it's not fun being when your kids are born. It's really fucking stressful and just horrible, right? But like fucking Prague was absolutely fucking the best 2 days of my life. I had so much fun.
You remember everything.
Yeah. I remember every detail, and I've been waiting my whole life for that, right? And I was with my two best mates. I've been going with them for years, right? We're all dads now, so we don't get to spend enough time together anyway. You know, you see each other quickly at the game once in a while. But this was 2 days going across Europe, you mate, bumping into loads of people, bumping into you, bumping into everyone every 5 minutes. And it was just the best time ever.
It was a big moment for me because someone come from who's a drinker. I woke up the morning of Prague and I said to Jess, I said, I'm not going to drink today. I said, I'm going to touch a drop of alcohol. So I went through the whole day. I had all the boys come up to me saying, come have a drink, have a beer. Like, I said, no. And just turned around and think, so why are you not drinking? So I said, I want to remember this moment. I said, this is the biggest West Ham game in my life. I said, I want to remember every little second, every moment. And I went through the whole day and I remember being on FaceTime to my dad and having that conversation with him and be able to speak with him because he couldn't make it to the game, and actually having a conversation with him and actually understand what he's saying, and that will live with me forever. And
that's brilliant.
And actually we stayed out to about 5 a.m. that day, and it's just brilliant.
Wow.
We need alcohol. We just
yeah.
And it was brilliant. We got in at 5 a.m. We both didn't drink, and it was probably the best day of our life when we got to celebrate together. So it was great.
There are so many people that I've spoken to that were at the game in Prague and who have no recollection of Bowen's goal, and that makes me
imagine that.
so sad, because that
it's a shame.
Like you said, Sam, like obviously it was, I'm so sorry to your wife, but better than your wedding and better than the birth of your sons. But I'm the same. If I'm ever lucky enough to meet someone to get married, like that day will never be topped. Like I will never. Prague was the best. And I can remember everything from start to finish. You can't do that with drink. Even if you've had one, even if you've had two, or just one, you do lose those memories. What would be your top tips to anyone that maybe is thinking about going sober but is worried at the football about potentially being judged or not feeling able to just drink a soft drink, or that feels like they're going to miss out, or
lose that match day experience?
Yeah. What would be, starting off with Mark, what would be your top four?
Well, that was actually one big fear for me, because I used to think, oh my God, how am I going to go to, like for instance, when I had that drink last time I had a drink, the work thing, because I just felt like a bit embarrassed. Like, oh, what am I going to say? Have a pint? Well, I can't say no. But I actually found, one, there's non-alcoholic beers everywhere. Like, they're everywhere now, restaurants, bars. There's rarely a place that doesn't do them. So I actually find them pretty useful. I know they might be a trigger for some people, but I actually really like them. And I used to feel quite embarrassed a little bit. I was thinking, oh God, how am I going to go into the bloody Carpenter's Arms with everyone going completely bananas? There's like beer on the ceiling. There's me going, oh, excuse me, can I have a Harlequin Zero? I feel like a right prat. But now I don't care. I say it quite proudly. I'll just say, yeah, I'll have a pint of that for me, old man. He'll have one of them. He'll have a Guinness. And I'm going to have one of them zeros, please, mate. And I even say to them, because they come in a smaller can, I'll say, can you pour it in a pint glass and top it up with a bit of lemonade, mate? So it's like a pint. And I'll make a joke of it. It's like, because I want to look my own pint. And people just don't care, really. But it's like, I think once you get your head, that people don't give a shit. They don't. No one cares, really. Like, I remember people not drinking around me. And I remember not caring. Do you know what I mean? If someone said to me, I'm going to have a Coke, I wouldn't go on them. I'd just go, all right, yeah, you have a Coke then. Do you know what I mean?
I was always impressed. For me, if it was someone who was like in the pub and they're having a laugh and they're part of it, and then you notice that they weren't drinking, I was so impressed by that. Because I'd think, oh, you can be one of the lads, but you don't need to drink a special potion to make yourself like that. You're just like that.
I think if you can just tell one, but you don't have to tell everyone, but if you can just tell one person, and that if in a moment of doubt, where in a moment of weakness you go to grab a pint, they can just stop your hand and be like, do you know what? And that can be us. I mean, that can be me, that can be Harry, Sam, that can be Mark, when we win games. Mark, I just wanted to touch on really quickly about your course that you're going to be doing in the month of January. Which is wicked, and just feel free to give us more.
So it's like it's regarding coaching, like sobriety coaching. I'm doing it sort of two reasons. One, to learn that way of working, and also I think as well it'd be good for myself in terms of like being sober. Apparently it's very good on those both fronts. So I'm going to be doing that in January, but I think that's going to be, I'm hoping that's going to be something I can sort of take on and do professionally as well at some stage. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to that.
So but that'll coach, like how, like, will you be able to? So anyone can contact you if they need hand with stopping.
Yeah, and I think the focus is also on grey area drinkers as well. So it's not necessarily people that are very they're requiring sort of intense rehab, things like that, are really suffering. It's more to do with people that are just generally like sort of day to day, like we've been talking about, just caught up in that world of drinking, and they're very much used to it. It's part and parcel of their lives, but they just feel a bit stuck. Because I found when I was realizing that I needed to make a change, was that I just felt a bit alone. Like there's no one else. Everyone else seems fine. Why am I the only bloody person that's suffering? So I think it's really just to help out. You know what I mean? Just to give that little bit of voice for some people that don't realize that you don't have to suffer. You can talk to somebody else, and you're not on your own. There's a lot of people out there, like you're saying, Sam. People come to you sometimes and go, "Yeah, how did you do that then?" Do you know what I mean? So there are people that do suffer. They just don't know how to deal with it. You know.
I think that's amazing, mate.
That's wicked. No, honestly, it's wicked, Mark. And I think sometimes you just need someone that you can resonate with, and someone that you can also see yourself in. Like I saw myself a lot in Sam, which was what helped me go sober. And I think the more of us, the merrier. So if You know, if there's anyone
that
feels like they're struggling at the moment, or don't know where to start in terms of their sobriety journey, or just need someone to go to games with, like we're always
absolutely.
And like my DMs on Instagram, people often message me on there about this issue, and I always try to give advice, and I'm always happy to do so, and you know, to anyone, but especially if it's a member of the West Ham family, you know, that to me is like you make a special effort then. And I mean, if people are trying to stay sober and they're struggling, give us a shout, and we'll all get together and show you how it's done.
Party.
Yeah.
I like it.